for beginners. Plus it catches fish. So what we'll do is we start here with just a regular standard streamer hook, and we'll start our thread just somewhere in the middle there. We'll make nice even wraps over the top away from us and just tie down our thread. Once we've made a few good wraps, we can hold that straight up in the air and snip off our excess. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is tie in our tail, marabou tail. So let's start our thread about 3/4 up the way of the hook shank there. How about right there? Now for the tail, we're going to use a marabou feather here. So I have one feather, and we can kind of comb it down and get an idea how long we want that tail. The tail we want to be the length of the hook shank. That's the flat part of the hook here. This is the bend of the hook. We have the point of the hook right there and the barb of the hook. So I want the length of this tail to be the length of the hook shank, and it's going to stick out from right there. Okay, so I'm going to pinch it right there, and then I can slide my fingers back and kind of get an idea there where I can pinch it down up here and secure it in against the hook. Alright, I'm just going to slide my fingers to the left. As I slide them down, I tie down that feather all the way back to what we call our tie-in point, the base of our tail, which is directly above the barb of the hook, about right there. I got to avoid that point every time I come around. Make nice even wraps, and now I've got the tail out the back. We can actually snip off this front part of the feather. So what we've created is a nice even underbody to that fly. Alright, I'm going to add a little flash in the tail. So we're going to do the black-red flavor today. So I just have one strand of crystal flash. I'll just hold that against the tail there in that same spot. Use my thumbnail to secure it in place, and then I can make nice even wraps, about 2 or 3, and we'll take the front half of that crystal flash and actually fold it back over and hold it in place on the far side of the hook. So what we have is kind of 2 little stripes out the back there. Fish seem to like that. Okay, now we're ready for the body of the fly. So what I have now is a piece of black wire here. Okay, so now let's take our thread back again up towards the middle of the hook, or the 3/4 of the way the hook shank, and just hold that wire in against our thread there and tie it down all the way back to our tie-in point and come right around again. We'll repeat that step now with our chenille. So let's hold that right up against the hook shank, tie it down all the way back to our tie-in point, and turn right around and come to the eye of the hook. Now we're going to let our thread wait there for us. Just kind of hang there. Now we can build the body of the fly. So we'll start with the chenille over the top away from us. Just kind of captured one little piece of marabou there. And we'll wrap this over the top away and just try to make nice even wraps moving forward. Nice and tight. And once we get up here towards the eye of the hook, we'll stop. Now one common thing with fly tying is people tend to crowd their head, which means we wrap a lot of materials too close to the eye of the hook, and that's a common mistake. So I want to make sure I still see an eye length of the hook back there, and then I can tie that off. I just hold it straight up in the air. With my left hand, we'll drop the thread over about 3 times, and that ties down that chenille. We'll hold that chenille straight up in the air, and we can snip that off. Okay, now we're ready for the hackle. So I've chosen a nice long piece of hackle that's fairly thin. Not all hackle is the same, so you have to kind of pick through and find the feathers that work for you for whatever fly you're doing. So I have the butt section, which is all this fluff, and the tip section up here. So I'm going to just pop this off right down here at the base where kind of the fluff starts, right in there. And I've got a little piece of the stem there that I can tie in. So I'm going to hold that very carefully right there against the eye of the hook and bring my thread around and tie down that stem, making three or four good real turns there. Alright, now we'll wrap this hackle over the top away from us. Make one good turn at the front, and now as we work our way back, we'll spiral wrap it 6 or 7 times all the way back to the back of the hook there. Gets a little tricky here at the tip there. We'll get all the way back to the back and hold that feather straight up in the air. Okay, now we got our wire here, and we'll crisscross that over with our wire. So I just tie that down with the wire, 2 wraps at the back, and now we'll spiral wrap it forward in the opposite direction, just carefully working that wire over that hackle, through that hackle, and tying it down. That'll tie down that really nice for us. Okay, now once I get to the eye of the hook, same procedure. We'll hold that straight up in the air and drop our thread over with our left hand about 3 times, and that ties down that wire secure. And now we can snip that off. Hold the wire straight up in the air and just pop it off. This little piece of hackle on the back, we can pop that off. Okay, now we're just about finished here. I've got all of this extra stuff hanging out here. I'm just going to use these 3 fingers and pull everything back out of the way and just build a nice little neat head right there, and tie down any stray pieces of hair and just clean that up a little bit, and we're ready for our whip finish. So we'll whip finish that right there on the head. Add a little drop of head cement, and that's a standard woolly bugger.